Ever notice how some parts of the world are jam-packed with people, while others are nearly empty? That's population distribution. It's never accidental. It's driven by access to water, job opportunities, and safe places to live. Today, we're also going to explore migration, which is just people moving to find better opportunities. We'll find out what pushes people away from their homes and what pulls them to a new life. Let's start. Ever looked at a map and wondered why some places are packed with people and others are nearly empty? That's what we call population distribution. It's the way humans have chosen to spread out across the earth. Think of it like a party. Some rooms are crowded and some are totally empty. The key takeaway here is that it's not random. People choose to settle in places that offer the best chance for survival and success, which often comes down to geography, like having fertile land or a mild climate. To talk about distribution, we need a way to measure it, and that's population density. It's essentially figuring out how many people are squished into 1 square mile or kilometer. You calculate it by taking the total number of people and dividing it by the total area. Cities like New York or Mumbai have extremely high density, lots of people in a small space, while places like the Sahara Desert or the Canadian tundra have very low density. Understanding density helps governments plan for housing, roads, and services like schools and hospitals. So what makes a place attractive? Historically, it starts with physical factors. Humans need 3 main things: a good climate, not too hot and not too cold, fresh water for drinking and farming, and flat landforms. That's why ancient civilizations thrived in river valleys like the Nile, because the land was fertile and water was plentiful. Trying to build a city on a freezing rocky mountaintop is just much harder than building one on a warm, flat plain. While physical geography gets people started, human factors keep them coming. Imagine 2 towns. One has a giant factory hiring hundreds of people, great schools, and low crime. The other has no jobs, poor infrastructure, and political instability. Which one will people move to? The one with better economic, political, and social opportunities, of course. A stable government and good job prospects can make people settle even in less than perfect physical locations, which is why some desert cities have boomed. History shows us a fascinating pattern in settlement. Before the Industrial Revolution, most people lived in rural areas near their farms. But once factories started popping up in the 18th and 19th centuries, there was a massive shift. People moved from the countryside to urban areas, cities, to find work. Today, the trend continues, with massive growth in coastal megacities and areas that have become hubs for technology and trade, showing that where the action and money are, people will follow. Now let's talk about movement, migration. It's a basic human behavior, but in social studies, it specifically means moving to a new place to live, either permanently or for a long time. When you leave your home country, you're emigrating. Think E for exit. When you arrive in a new country, you're immigrating. Think I through into. Whether you move across a state line, internal, or across an ocean, international. Migration is always driven by a set of powerful reasons. To understand why people migrate, geographers use the ideas of push and pull factors. Think of it like a magnet. Push factors are the things that repel you from your current location, like a high-speed fan pushing you away. This could be war, a lack of jobs, or even terrible weather. Pull factors are the things that attract you to a new location, like a giant magnet drawing you in. This could be a promise of a better job, more freedom, or a chance to get a good education. For many migrants, the decision is purely economic. Imagine you live in a town where the main factory closed and there are no other good jobs. That lack of employment is a huge economic push factor. Conversely, if you hear that a city 3 states over is booming with high-paying jobs, that's a strong economic pull factor. Historically, and even today, the simple search for a better way to make a living and provide for a family is the single greatest driver of migration. Sometimes, the reasons for leaving have nothing to do with money and everything to do with safety and freedom. Political and social push factors are serious reasons people are forced to leave. Think of people fleeing a country ravaged by war, or where the government is actively persecuting them for their religious or political beliefs. When basic human rights are taken away, or your life is in danger, that's a powerful push that overrides everything else. Nature itself can be a push factor. If you live on a coastline and sea levels are rising, slowly eroding your home and farmland, that's an environmental push. If a region experiences a massive natural disaster, like a devastating earthquake or a years-long drought that causes a famine, people are forced to move simply to survive. This type of displacement is becoming more common as the effects of global climate change intensify. On the flip side, what makes a new place an attractive destination? The most common economic pull factor is a place promising job availability and a higher standard of living. When people see that they can earn more money, get better healthcare, and have more financial security for their children, they are pulled toward that location. People are willing to leave everything they know for a better chance at building a stable future. Equally important are the political and social pull factors. Think about the image of the Statue of Liberty. It symbolizes freedom and opportunity. Migrants are often pulled to countries that offer peace, stability, and the promise of fundamental rights like freedom of speech or religion. Access to high-quality education for children and reliable health care are also powerful pulls, indicating a society that values the well-being of its citizens. We can categorize migration into two main types: voluntary and forced. If you choose to move for a better job or a warmer climate, that's voluntary migration. You are in control of the decision. But if you are a refugee fleeing a war zone, or if you were historically captured and moved against your will, like during the transatlantic slave trade, that's forced migration. The difference is the element of free choice and whether the person is moving out of desire or desperation. A special group of migrants are refugees and asylum seekers. A refugee is someone who has been forced to leave their country because of war, persecution, or fear for their life and safety. An asylum seeker is a person who has arrived in another country and formally asked the government for protection. International laws, like the UN Refugee Convention, exist because the global community recognizes that these people have a fundamental right to safety when their own country can't provide it. Migration is a complex system that affects both the sending and receiving countries. When people emigrate, that is, when they leave, the origin country faces the challenge of brain drain, where the best and brightest, the skilled workers, leave, slowing down economic growth. However, there's also a big positive: remittances. This is the money that migrants send back home to their families, which can be a huge boost to the local economy in the origin country. For the country receiving the immigrants, the impact is also mixed. On the positive side, new arrivals often fill jobs that native-born workers either can't or won't do, strengthening the labor force. They also bring a rich cultural enrichment, adding new traditions, foods, and perspectives to the society. The main challenge is the strain on resources, as a sudden influx of people can overwhelm local infrastructure, like schools, roads, and affordable housing. The United States has a major example of internal migration called the Great Migration. Between the 1910s and 1970, millions of African Americans moved from the rural South to the major industrial cities of the North and West. The push was the brutal system of Jim Crow laws, racial violence, and economic poverty in the South. The pull was the promise of industrial jobs in places like Detroit, Chicago, and New York, and a chance for better social and political treatment. Looking at international immigration to the US, we see distinct waves. In the mid-19th century, large numbers came from Western Europe, like the Irish fleeing the potato famine. Later, from the 1880s to the 1920s, the tide shifted to Southern and Eastern Europeans, Italians, Poles, and Jews, who came to work in the booming factories. Today, the largest source regions are Latin America and Asia, reflecting changes in global economics and politics that continue to drive people to the US. Migrants often face huge hurdles. The first are geographic barriers. Historically, vast oceans and impassable mountains made long-distance travel nearly impossible. Even today, the Sahara Desert or the Darien Gap between Central and South America pose deadly threats. Then there are human obstacles, like strict border controls, high walls, complex legal processes, and the sheer cost of travel, all of which limit who can migrate and where they can go.